Hello, my name is Bindu Madhavi Chejarla. Today's Chandamama story is The Penalty. In the city of Cairo, there was once a jewelry merchant who was a mere youth. His customers were mostly women, and he was greatly afraid of falling victim to their guile. He avoided even looking at women, and everybody thought he was a very virtuous lad. One day, a slave girl came to his shop and asked him, "Does the shop belong to so and so? Are you the owner?" Then she secretly slipped a note into his hand. When the merchant read the note, he was both surprised and angry. For the note contained a love poem composed by some girl who put her name in the last stanza. The jeweler tore up the poem in indignation. He abused the slave girl for having brought such a message and drove her out of his shop. Those who witnessed this scene praised him for his moral sense. 2 or 3 years went by. The jeweler's attitude to women changed slightly. He now wanted to find a nice girl for a wife. So he began to observe his women customers closely in order to see if any of them had the three qualities of beauty, grace, and wisdom. One day he found an extremely beautiful girl enter his shop, accompanied by 5 or 6 white slaves. "Can you show me some nice ornaments?" the girl asked him. She wanted him to show her some golden anklets. But seeing that the girl had very tiny feet, the jeweler said, "I'm sorry, madam. The smallest anklet I have will be too loose for your foot." "You don't say," the girl said as if surprised. "But I am told that my feet are like those of an elephant." "They lie, madam," said the jeweler in indignation. "Your feet are tiny like very small doves." "Oh, well, show me some bangles," the girl asked him. But when the slaves moved up the sleeves of the girl and showed him her hands, the jeweler was amazed at their small size. "Madam," he said in admiration and helplessness, "I have not even a single pair of bangles small enough for your tiny hands." "Sir, you flatter me," the girl said coldly. "I am told that my hands rival the trunks of elephants and my fingers are like plantains." "Utter lies, madam," the jeweler protested. "You are very beautiful, the most beautiful woman on earth. If only you consent to marry me, I shall be the happiest of men." He knelt at her feet and began to weep. The girl smiled. "My father is quite prejudiced about me. He tells me that I have coarse hair, an ugly face full of pockmarks and irregular teeth. He tells me that none will marry me. I am very happy indeed to learn from you that I am not very ugly," she said. "Madam," said the jeweler, "your father must be mad. Tell me who he is, and I will swear to him that I shall marry you." "He is Sheikh al-Islam. He is quite famous among the merchants of this city. If you propose to marry me, he will not readily consent. He will try to frighten you with descriptions of my ugliness. You must tell him that you are willing to marry me in spite of all he says," the girl told him. "When shall I see him?" the jeweler asked the girl. "At 10 tomorrow," she said. Then she departed with her slaves. Next morning at 10 o'clock, the jeweler went to see Sheikh al-Islam. "You don't appear to know my daughter, my boy," al-Islam said after hearing the jeweler. "She is an unfortunate girl, ugly enough to haunt your dreams." Then he went on to describe how horribly ugly his daughter was. But the jeweler kept on saying, "I don't mind it in the least." When the aged merchant finished describing his daughter, he consented to give her in marriage to the jeweler. The young man drew up a declaration of marriage which was duly witnessed. The declaration said that the bridegroom was ready to accept the bride with all her defects and deformities, and in case he wanted to divorce her, he had to pay an alimony of 20,000 dinars of gold. The bride is bedridden, said Al Islam. She cannot be moved. The marriage shall take place here at my house. After the marriage, the jeweler anxiously went to his wife in her bedchamber and removed the veil from her face. Then he stood petrified because the bride was ugly. She was not at all the girl who had come to his shop. The poor fellow could not imagine why such a calamity had to befall him. Without another look at his bride, he returned home. The next morning, as he was sitting, sadly brooding over his fate, the beautiful girl again came to his shop and said, "Hail to the bridegroom, may Allah bless his marriage." Then the jeweler began to curse her heartily. The girl pretended to be surprised. "Have you forgotten my poem and my slave who you have insulted?" Then she got up to go away. But the young man fell at her feet and said, "I was a fool. Please get me out of this mess." She took pity on him and told him a plan. Then the jeweler made certain arrangements along the lines indicated by her, went to his father-in-law's house. There he sat with the old man on the veranda when the main gate was flown open and a lot of nasty persons entered the compound. All the scum of Cairo appeared to be there, beating drums, whistling, doing acrobatics, and performing with monkeys and bears. The din they made was insufferable. Al Islam stood up and shouted, "Stop that noise! What's all this?" But those fellows did not stop their din until the jeweler gave them the signal. "My dear father-in-law," he said to Al Islam, "these are my relatives and kinsmen. Having learnt that I got married, they have come to celebrate and rejoice." "These your relatives?" said Al Islam, turning pale. "If I knew it, I would not have given my daughter to you." "Had you asked me, I would have told you," the jeweler said. "You should have told me about it without my asking," Al Islam said. "Your declaration is null and void. I shall not consider it as valid." "Oh no," said the jeweler, "I shall not give up my dear wife. I shall see how you can separate us." Now Al Islam began to beg the jeweler humbly, "My dear boy, consider my reputation. Divorce my daughter, and Allah will bless you." Thus the unfortunate jeweler managed to get out of his thoughtless marriage. Later he married the girl whom he loved. His joy knew no bounds when he learned that his wife was closely related to the Sultan of Cairo.